we're going to talk about the Soviet Lord of the Rings show, which has finally been released on the internet. We're going to see their version of Green Gollum with a beanie on. We're going to see an eye through the keyhole. Or no, the ring hole. I'm sorry, not the keyhole. And we're going to see Goldenberry.
Wondering to rule them all, wondering to find them.
Welcome back to AsArt with Nick, John, and Kyle. Hit the subscribe button to stay updated and go to asart.space for all of the audio and video links, and go visit Kyle's awesome Instagram. He's an amazing artist. He's also writing an amazing sci-fi series and novel. So he's going to do all the updates on his social media platforms. We'll link down below. By the way, if you love Lord of the Rings like we do, we've been going through the animated series, comparing it to the Peter Jackson series, which has been our favorite series that we've been doing. We started that over a year ago, and we're taking our time dissecting every frame. Quite literally. We pause it and we're like, look at this freeze frame of Lego's face. All right, so let's jump into it. Any thoughts? Anything did you guys prefer this over the Peter Jackson version? I want to know. But actually, just so you know, we did a review of the 1988 Chronicles of Narnia BBC series, which aired before this and looks a million times better than this. And
yes.
I highly recommend you guys go back and watch some giant beavers. Okay.
And that's what I was going to say. That's one of my favorite quotes from Nick about this is he goes, dude, that BBC Narnia from 1988 makes it look like the Avengers compared to this version.
Yeah, that was like Narnia looks like cinematic excellence compared to this one.
They did use a green screen, I think.
They emphasis on I think.
I think they were like learning how to use a green screen while filming this, and like learning how to key, because like being able to see through their clothes and their hair, like through the keys.
Now let's bear in mind this is coming close to the ending days of the Soviet Union, right? Because this came out shortly before the dissolution of the Soviet Union in December of 1991.
Yeah, and that's kind of something I wanted to kind of get at too, is not only are we getting near the end of the Soviet Union, but we're in the Soviet Union. I'm sure their main focus is not cinematic storytelling and budgets. And even then, even if they did have a lot of money, like what Nick was saying, green screen and blue screen was not at a very strong point at that point in time. I mean, it's still hard to do now, even with software and technology as advanced as it is. But the old chroma keyers that you would have, you had a bar and you push that bar to do more or less intense. There was no spill suppression or anything. And, to try and get rid of the spill on the characters, what you got is, what you got. Yeah. And there wasn't much to fiddle around afterwards. So
it's so true. And I felt like every background was zoomed in. Did you guys see that too? Like whenever they were in the forest, it was like a zoomed in like background. I was like, the scaling on this thing is crazy.
Oh, I was just going to say, so this technically wasn't made for the cinema. This was actually a for TV production.
Oh, okay.
Right. For Leningrad TV, if I'm not mistaken.
Leningrad TV. I like that.
Do we know if there was more than just the Fellowship?
Well, there was the Hobbit, right?
Yes, and that came out a couple years before.
Yeah, but like in terms of like Lord of the Rings stuff, I think that was the only one. I think it's only the Fellowship.
Well, is that because the Soviet Union kind of collapsed at that point, or
who knows? I mean, the production company that made it may have fallen through. Who knows?
This was
Fast Times
recently released too, so it was like highly under wraps kind of thing. I feel like.
Well, it's interesting how to.
It was right there by like the nuclear launch missiles. I don't like let's keep it secret.
The world is not ready.
And then they watch Peter Jackson. They're like, we're never showing this. This is going to be locked away with smog.
We will not speak of this, Yevgeny.
Put it in Mordor. Lock it up.
I thought this was interesting because I had first seen this article on GameSpot, and I didn't think we were going to do a video on this. I just absent-mindedly sent this to Nick. Hey, check this out. There was a Russian Lord of the Rings. He's like,
find it.
He didn't even see it. He's like, we need to watch this.
I think I said find it, right?
Oh yeah, you said find it. I'm like, well, I just read the heading of an article. I don't know.
I'm like, now we need to watch this now. What's going on?
Oh man.
Okay, so let's start off. So Kyle, you were telling me it's like based off of like a summary of the book, right? It's like it's not based off
the translation, right?
Yeah. Is it like a translation thing?
As well, that's the thing is as far as I know, I don't know. I think areas of interpretation were given as with any story.
The actors did their own thing.
Yeah, like I mean, like because we have the storyteller.
Yes, the random storyteller with the glasses and the beard randomly pops in.
There would be moments where they would cut between the story and just he'd look at the camera and that's it.
He wouldn't even
He'd just stare at you, and I'm like, I feel uncomfortable for some
they
reason.
Weren't breaking the fourth wall. They were just there was no wall.
Yeah, this guy was like Rasputin cleaned up, basically, and had goggles.
Very much so, yeah.
It was the long dark hair. That's what, and the beard. That's what was giving me the Rasputin.
And it's so funny because Gandalf really didn't even have a beard.
Yeah,
he's always described like this long gray beard and stuff. He just had like a little beard. But his fireworks were the most incredible piece of magic I've ever seen on film. Ever.
That made my Saturday.
I was crying laughing. I went. I don't do this too often. I went and I showed it to Allie. I'm like, look at this, because I made her watch Lord of the Rings tons of time. I'm like, these are Gandalf's fireworks, and she looked and she started busting up crying. She's like, this isn't real. I'm like, 100% this is real. Like, this is at the beginning of the movie.
Guys, I made a film in 6th grade that was better than that. Like, I had special effects better than that when I was 12 years old.
It was the best thing, by the way. We did a TikTok on it. Go to our TikTok page. We compare it. Oh my gosh, we compare it to the original, to the Peter Jackson.
If anything, it was bold and daring for them to do that.
It was so bold too, because there was no colors. It was just like a white PNG image. They flashed onto it. That's so amazing. You know what? I would have been more impressed if it still had like the watermark from like stock or something like that. Like you find off Google.
I wish we had subtitles for this so we could actually watch the whole thing and follow it perfectly, because
you don't need subtitles.
Obviously, you're not going to be able.
What says it all?
What's that?
I said you do not need subtitles. The acting says it all. In this.
I would say for anyone who is at least reasonably versed in the storyline of Lord of the Rings and Fellowship, you generally get the gist. Like I was able to follow along. I'm like, oh, okay, they're here now.
Yeah.
A little odd, yes, but it's on point.
At first, before watching it, I was just scrolling through it. I was lost. Like when I was stopped at random points, I'm like,
I mean, yeah.
What's going on here?
I mean, how long would it take you to establish the context, right?
Like I knew who Gollum was. Like I just by like the way the actor was, like, you know, and like the creepiness. I'm like, now that has to be Gollum. I doubt if that's Gimli, you know?
Right. Oh, speaking of which, my favorite part, and they should have done this. I honestly think they had a portrayal of Gimli that I hadn't seen before. I was kind of making fun of him, but still, he was used as a table.
Yes.
For a map. Like he was on his hands and knees, and they were reviewing the map and talking about. He's just sitting there. He's just like, "Yep, I'm a table." I'm like, "What?" That is amazing. That's great.
As long as not the beard, as long as that, he can be a table. Right. That's fine.
He's got that stout dwarven frame.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Right. So good. Oh, and the bridge in Moria. Oh my gosh, the bridge in Moria, when they're looking at the bridges, they're so tiny compared to the scale with the green screen.
Which is interesting
scaling
because
is so off in this thing, by the way. The scaling is all off. But you know what we get? Tom Bombadil. We get Tom Bombadil, and he's huge. They made him a freaking giant.
You know what? I actually liked this whole sequence was probably the best part of the movie, because Tom Bombadil, I feel like he was at least portrayed halfway, somewhat reasonably, right? He was happy-go-lucky.
He was singing.
He had a beard. He had the appropriate attire.
Yeah.
Right?
He had the hat.
You know,
he had the hat.
He had the hat. Yeah.
He looked like, if you guys have ever played Battle for Middle-earth 2. I gotta throw that in every Lord of the Rings video we do.
Bombadillo.
But Kyle, favorite character in the whole series is his wife, Goldenberry.
Was Goldberry.
Goldenberry.
Okay.
Goldenberry.
Now a little context, folks. All right. Okay, so I was watching it, right, and I just see Goldberry tucking them in because they're huge, by the way, in this version, right? And like the hobbits look like children, right? Like little small
like mice.
and she's huge, and I'm like, oh, that's a fetish I didn't even realize I had. A nice big Russian mommy to take care of me. Oh boy,
Oh boy.
Strange emotions there. All right.
It was so crazy. Oh my gosh. It was so, but you know what's cool? We got to see Tom Bombadil and the whole, what are they called? Wraiths in the book? Like the spirits of the dead?
The Ringwraiths? Are they called that?
But no, but so like in the books you have wraiths, right? Like they're like evil. They're not the Ringwraiths, but they're just like wraiths that like live in the hills. Because in the book, remember, there's that whole circumstance where they get caught by wraiths.
That's right.
And then Tom Bombadil comes in to save the day.
Of which I gotta say, so Tom Bombadil's theme in this movie sounded like he just got back from a hippie revival. Like it was amazing. I'm like,
almost
that's kind of on point.
Wraiths,
like,
I really like the bad guys sound or the Ringwraith sound effect.
Oh man, that was okay. That's like walking in to a seedy 90s Russian club, right, with techno music. Like whenever I heard that techno beat come on, I'm like, oh, it's the Ringwraiths. Yeah, buddy. Like I started getting into it, It was great. By the way, I looked it up. That was okay. So a lot of the music in this production was done by a Russian group called Aquarium, which translates to aquarium, right? And so like apparently they came up with that fresh beat. So that was pretty cool.
That fresh beat. I like that. Fresh beat.
It's just like, and cue the techno music with the horse riders. We got this.
Oh
right?
my gosh, the horse riders. Can we just talk about the camera angles for the horse riders? Oh.
I swear, it's like they chose B-roll for the entire thing. They're just like, just keep it going. Keep it. We got this.
Like they had a chance to shoot outside in woods. Like they could have easily probably just went to like a park and shot with some trees in the background. It probably would have been more believable than the green screen stuff they try to throw them in constantly. Like they try to constantly throw them into green screen woods and green screen this. It's like there has to be a cheaper solution and a better solution than this.
We see that in some of the shots, right? Some of them are actually in the Russian countryside, right? Of which it's all snowing, by the way. Like it's clearly in winter or early spring or something. I don't know. I'm just like, all right, I guess they couldn't kick back the schedule or kick it up. I don't know. Like, what's going on with their scheduling
this was
here?
Such a good time.
Winter.
Like I was so skeptical. I go into older movies sometimes like, am I going to be able to make it through this? I was like, yes, this is amazing. Like I even went back to watch things multiple times because I could not believe like we're all over the place in this video because the movie's all over the place.
Yeah. So I will say one thing that's consistent about this movie. I came up with I came to an appreciation for how Russians approach, or at least Soviets in this term, approach conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you, you can time the movie based on where they're sitting down and just talking to people, right? Like it's like first, okay, here's Gandalf and Bilbo talking. Here's Gandalf and Bilbo talking again. Now it's Frodo and the hobbits in a tavern talking to a farmer. Now, and these conversations last for a while, right?
Like they're
serious.
Not serious.
And they're serious. Yeah, they're like, damn, they're like, it's like, I just imagine like the farmers talking to him about his crops. It's like, yeah, they're all failing.
I know, because we have no idea what
I don't know what I'm going to do.
But
my children can't eat.
Serious. Yeah. And there's like no music.
Yeah. Like I was like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but I'm pretty invested just from the gravitas of what's going on.
A lot of table scenes. I think that same table was used in every scene too. It's like a circular table they use. Also,
what was up with Frodo? Kind of just like talking to the guy, and then he danced with the guy's wife, who I assume is his wife. I don't know. And then she was singing, and I'm like, and then they go back to Nora, and then they talk to Aragorn, right?
Yes.
And it's like,
I didn't know
that was completely uncalled for, but all right.
But in the book, doesn't he sing in the tavern in the book?
You know what? He might.
Or maybe actually, I'm thinking of the animated version.
So maybe
I'm so confused with all these.
Maybe they're true to that
of Lord of the Rings
in that respect. Yeah, because I'll be honest, I've been spoiled by the movies, right? Like it's been a long time.
I am so happy those movies. Imagine if this was our only copy of Lord of the Rings, we would not have a big fan base like we do.
If anything, this would be the impetus for Peter Jackson to make the movies. He's like, we got to do better than this, guys. Humanity is ready.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's interesting what Kyle said earlier about this being near the end of the Soviet Union, because this is quite a bit earlier, but I think it was in 1972 or so. There's the original movie Solaris came out. I think it's a Russian film originally, or Soviet Union, and it's considered one of the best like science fiction movies ever made. So it's very long. It's like longer than Lord of the Rings extended editions, I think. So I've never watched it all the way. I started it one night, like late. I'm like, I'll watch a quick movie, and then like it was just going forever and ever, and I didn't end up finishing it. I might want to finish it, but so I'm curious if this would have been made earlier in the Soviet Union's time. But again, that was a film. Like Kyle was saying, this is a TV production. That's a whole different thing, especially during this time period. Now we think of TV and streaming the same as we do movies, but that's a very recent thing for sure.
But we did get the Narnia BBC.
That's true. Yeah. And that's, what's interesting, what you were saying, Nick, is they did go on location for a lot of stuff in the BBC, and it helps it look way better. Whereas here they try to do everything kind of more production type stuff or post-production.
I mean, we didn't get the animated loops basically of them stabbing the ground repeating like we did in Narnia, and we didn't get.
If you guys have not seen that review we did, you should definitely see that. That is hilarious. It's awesome. We have a fun time with that one for sure. Oh no, the breath! I have nightmares again.
I was hoping the breath would fix this movie, but it didn't.
Oh.
Also, I gotta say, this is probably the most loose interpretation of elves.
Oh my gosh.
Like Tolkienian elves I've ever seen. Like the elf, okay, one of the elves had a beard. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Right. Also, like, I thought that like because of that, there were some people that were from the Fellowship who I didn't know who when they were being introduced. I thought Boromir was one of the elves. I'm like, but then they say his name like with like a Russian accent, and I'm like, oh snap, that's not an elf. That's
and then Legolas.
Boromir. All right. Yeah, and Legolas. He looked the most elvish out of all of them.
Yes.
Right.
But I
think he also had a little lip gloss on
if
too.
It was a male or female acting as Legolas.
Yeah. Sometimes,
right?
The elves have been known to be androgynous.
No, but I just didn't know. The quality of the video didn't help at all, too.
Right.
Is that? No. Yeah, okay, I see it. It works for me.
All right.
I'm open for anything at this point.
So, considering that we're getting this way after the fact, and this is not the best production of Lord of the Rings, are we still glad we got this, though? Like, that this is finally, after so many years, released? Like, did you guys have a fun time watching this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean,
okay, so
it's so bad that it's good.
Exactly. It definitely falls within those categories, or within that category. Mm-hmm. But also, like, I mean, technically, this is also a piece of history.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess anything is technically, but like after a certain amount of time. But I don't know. I liked it just because I didn't realize that the Soviets had made their own their interpretation of Lord of the Rings. Because I would have thought that it would have been like counter-revolutionary or something, right? Like,
maybe
the West encroaching.
Didn't finish it.
Maybe, or maybe it's telling of the times of like where things were eventually going to be going with Russia.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
I mean, I'm no historian of the Russian people.
He
by
is
any
an
means,
expert, though. So,
yes,
he would say a grain of salt, maybe not.
So, would you know the dance that they were doing in Lothlorien, Kyle? Mr. Expert. What would you call that dance?
You can speak in Elvish for a little bit if you need to speak to the Elvish audience.
I believe the English equivocation is poor choreography.
Yeah. But you know what's a trip? So all the backgrounds stay stable most of the time. They don't even move the backgrounds, even if the camera's moving. Like the backgrounds don't move. But for some reason in Lothlorien, the background's like spinning constantly. And it was just like, what is going on here? Because the foreground's not moving at all. I'm like, this is making me a little dizzy here.
The whole Lothlorien stuff in like Galadriel, like that was like a low-key acid trip. It was just crazy. I'm like, what is happening here?
Or maybe back in, this is 88, right? Maybe back in 1988, 90, maybe, oh wow, maybe back in 19. What?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Maybe back then.
Narnia was 88. Isn't that crazy?
Back in 1991, maybe they had virtual production like The Mandalorian, but the technology wasn't quite synced up yet. That's why the backgrounds are spinning. Maybe that's what it was.
And the pixelation through the keys.
Yeah. So if you want to see
the hair, oh my God. So
going back to Lothlorien, I've actually been meaning to ask you this, Nick. So Galadriel's vision, she has a vision of her having the ring, and it's probably the most interesting interpretation I've seen yet of that scene, right? So like she's crying as she holds the one ring, right? Mm-hmm. And like it looks like jewels or gold or something is like pouring.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm like, what's going on here? That's interesting.
No idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. We just watched the animated version. And in the in the animated version, it's Cinderella dancing, basically, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And then in the Peter Jackson version, we get alternate reality or Dark Lord,
apocalyptic sort of,
Yes. And then now we get, I don't know what still. I'm still processing it.
I don't know.
The best part was, I believe this is also the scene when he holds up the ring and you see like, it looks like a guy.
Right.
It looks like a guy like hiding his eye. And
hey, what's up, dude?
See like an eye like peeking through fingers. Doesn't it look like someone's going like this and it's like an eye like peeking through fingers or something like that? Like,
hey, is this Kevin's place? You got the dope?
There's a man in the ring. Or you know what it kind of reminded me of? Full Metal Alchemist. Isn't there a character that has eyes?
Yes. Yeah, like an eye in like the middle of something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know why that reminded me of that, but
and I don't this kind of reminded me of this too. So we're going to be confusing Kyle even more because we're going to be watching, probably the next Middle Earth thing we'll be doing is we're going to watch the Return of the King animated, which some of us have never seen, right?
Oh man.
Me.
Yes, Nick's never seen it.
Surprised
I'm
Nick
saving it too
that.
because I'm even tempted to like live stream this reaction or something like that. Me watching. I should have live streamed this. Oh my gosh, guys! If we would have live streamed this, I was just laughing the whole time. I don't think I would have been able to even get a word out. I was just like calling Kyle, like, "Do the fireworks!"
Right? Yeah.
I was in. Once I saw the fireworks, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where are my noise canceling headphones? Like, nothing's gonna disturb this night."
Oh, that's awesome. But that has a very interesting take on when Sam puts on the ring in that, and so it's interesting. In these different interpretations, you get much different visions. Now, I don't remember in the Lord of the Rings, the book, does Galadriel have a vision of what it's like, or does she just kind of laugh it off like she does in the end? Do you remember that, Kyle?
Yeah, she's tempted. She's tempted.
She's tempted.
She is tempted, just like Aragorn's tempted and other people are tempted.
But I can't remember if it explains what she sees or anything like that. Because remember, the Russians are going off a translation of this at the time. I'm curious what that translation was versus what creative liberties as filmmakers they just took, so it's interesting to think of it that way.
I think it all has to do with that well thing. The sea well and stuff.
Also, like, let's bear in mind that in literature, you can take something that's been written and you can put emphasis or weight on different areas to varying degrees, right? So like, and I think that's where we get, especially where we're talking about like the animated Fellowship of the Rings versus the movies, because like that's a completely different weight, right? That scene. But not to jump too quickly, but okay, I gotta say, one of my favorite scenes was when Frodo got stabbed with the Nazgul blade.
Oh my gosh.
Because the music that follows is not what I would have picked.
No, it was
for that scene.
It was like it was almost like a La La Land, like happiness.
It was like he gets stabbed. He's like, oh, and he's falling to the ground, and then it's like accordion music starts playing. Like I'm like, what is going on? Like, have I taken crazy pills here? But yeah, that was great. I mean, I would go as far to say that was a very daring choice on their part. All right,
or maybe there was a contract somewhere saying this accordion player would be able to play a song in this movie, and they're like, damn it, we can't fit him in anywhere. Let's just throw him in this part. He's like, I would love to play. He's like, playing his thing.
All right, so I'm gonna try and make an excuse for the Russians here. So in this, one of my favorite classes I ever took in college was called Music and Film, and it was how music affects your interpretation and how things read on screen and the emotional gravity of things. Later on in the course, he gives an example. If you guys have ever seen the Charlton Heston, the Ten Commandments, when they're coming out of Egypt and all the Jewish people are coming out of Egypt, and you can see them walking slowly, and the original composer had this really slow, like slow music, and the director's like, you're ruining my view. You need to make it upbeat so it evens things out. You're going to make it even slower. So in this case, it was a very intense moment. You know what? Let's make it a little bit upbeat.
You know, who knows? Maybe that's
I'm kidding.
So Saruman
doesn't
have a beard. He's wearing yellow and black. And he has a face painted on his goddamn cape.
Yeah.
And
rings around his head.
Yes. Though I would say, though, their interpretation of Saruman being sort of like consumed by the ring's power, or by you get indicated that he is an agent of Sauron, right?
Yes.
This is a more manic Saruman, right? He's a little bit more insane, and I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. Like, I'm not disappointed with that. Yeah, because he like starts kind of laughing, like just like kind of crazily, and I'm like, all right, that madness is one of the things when you come into contact with Sauron. So,
that's what happens when you start losing the little bit of white in your cloak and your beard. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh yeah, wait a minute. That goes totally against his character. He's supposed to be white, like with a beard and like long hair and his clothes.
Exactly. I was like,
freaking
all right.
Saruman the White.
Yeah.
And
that's his name. It's his goddamn name.
Nick can't go 3 minutes without starting to laugh again. That's awesome.
We should have like a laugh counter. No, let's not do that. That's too much.
Another thing I got to ask, why did Tom and Goldberry break the fourth wall? Like, there were multiple instances where they just like looked at the camera, they're like, hey, yeah, I guess, that could be. And if that's the case, I like that, actually. I'm not against that.
I mean, he was able to flip the ring. He's super strong, and he can dig anywhere in Middle Earth and pop up on the other side. And he's just...
right. But my favorite character, like
Goldenberry,
first entrance was Gandalf.
Oh,
because like when he first like shows up at Bilbo's like feast, like he like kind of strides up. He's like hands on hips, and he's got that look like, Bilbo, you son of a bitch, how are you? Like, just like.
And then after that, he just opens up his cape or his robe, and then like fireworks come bursting out.
That's when I knew I'm in for a ride. All right.
Oh man! And then like, it was so interesting too, just the whole dynamics Bilbo was having with the other hobbits and talking and stuff like that. And
yeah, because
I read the books and I know the story, I kind of know the other hobbits they're talking about, but I don't know if they mention proud foot or proud.
Speaking of feet, Nick. So I noticed something towards the end, but they show it on Bilbo and on Frodo and I think Sam. I don't know about Merry.
Which one's Sam?
But you see Sam. I know it's hard to
because like he doesn't have like a Sam moment really.
Well, they do say his name multiple times and it did cut to him, so I remember his face. It's hard to describe though because they all kind of look
remembering who's who.
Yeah, but
because the way they dressed him was so interesting. With like the major like the sideburn chops, and then like the random like glasses on some characters, and then Frodo's like orange afro thing he has going on.
Yeah. However, their wardrobe was, I would say, oddly appropriate for hobbits.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So okay. The thing is I noticed they were wearing furry leggings.
Yes.
Right. And I was like, wait a minute. And then there was one scene where Frodo sits down, and I see toes on the fur, and I'm like, are those their feet? Like, is that how they portrayed a hobbit's furry feet? Is with a huge wad of fur, like around the calf, and like, I'm like, that is weird. And it looks like they had claws, like they weren't toes, they were more like pointy claws. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Come on.
What happens in Russia stays in Russia.
If anything, it's a bold interpretation.
Yes.
How about that?
Maybe it was like from one of the bears, because don't they like fight a lot of bears up there in the
Soviet Union? The Russian bears, yeah. Though I mean, okay, like literally on my notes, I'm like, so what's up with these furry bootleggings? And then like half a minute later, I'm like, they are their feet. Oh my God. So,
that's something we could talk about. There was no opening. Like even the animated series, you kind of get a little bit of backstory on the ring, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit of, maybe this is happening in the heavy dialogue Gandalf
Probably
is having, because there are some random flashbacks, and like you even find out how Smeagol turns into Gollum.
Yeah, we get that. Yeah, we get those scenes.
You get that story, and it's very similar to the birthday thing. Like they're fishing.
Yep.
Falls into the water. He's swimming. He grabs it. It's actually a very similar shot. I wonder if Peter Jackson.
I saw your shot analysis.
Oh yes, that's going up tomorrow on TikTok. Yeah. But yeah. So he grabs it, and it's very similar, and then he swims back up and all that stuff. But it was very interesting to see that, because we obviously don't see that until the third movie, right? And,
beginning of the third one.
Beginning of the third movie. But they don't give backstory on the ring or Saruman or anything that pertains to the story like that.
I think they did with maybe with the storyteller, and also I think with the Gandalf dialogue, conversation moments with Bilbo and Frodo.
Yeah, so
I think those
he has a conversation with Bilbo.
Yeah.
Then they go back to the party, and then they come back. Bilbo does his speech, and then he leaves, and then he comes back to the house, and they talk, and then or something like that, and then Frodo comes and they talk. And that's 40 minutes into the first movie. Just nothing but heavy dialogue is happening.
There's also a shot for 2 minutes straight of hobbits dancing.
Yes.
That's it. And I'm like, and this is at the beginning of the movie. And I'm like, whew. There were so many things in my head where I'm like, is this what the experience is going to be like? Am I just going to slowly go insane?
I had so much energy from the fireworks VFX that I probably could have made it through all 6 series or whatever they want to name them.
Also, guys, I feel that we should thank 5TV, which is the successor of Leningrad Television, for recently unearthing this copy. They're the ones that rediscovered
cool.
it.
Awesome.
So
that's cool.
So yeah.
So literally was rediscovered. It was in the archives or something. And
just collecting dust. Wait a minute, what the hell?
Is there any other cool facts you found, Kyle, when you're doing your research?
Other than the music and how they found it.
Do you know who the director was?
No, I probably should have looked that up.
No, it's fine. We probably don't know who the guy is.
And as far as my conclusions, I kind of already said it, right? Lord of the Rings fans, they'll be able to follow the gist of the story without subtitles. I mean, I'm sure, you know what? Leave it up to the internet. I'm sure we'll get subtitles in a week or two here, if nothing else, right? Yeah. Those who aren't familiar with Lord of the Rings, if you want a fever dream, watch this, right? And you might be entertained. That's awesome. Again, as the conversation stuff, I thought the dialogue was believable as it can be to an American who does not understand Russian. But I did feel that I'm like, these guys are talking about some serious stuff. Maybe I should listen, All right,
I have a question for both you guys. Would you guys watch it again?
I would watch it again just to witness people's reactions to certain things.
So you would watch a reaction video to this then?
Yes.
I think with subtitles it'd be a fun, because I'm very curious about the whole translation part of it. Because from what I understood of that article, it hadn't been officially localized at that point. So this is some type of translation this happened to get their hands on, and I'm curious to see how that would be interpreted, and then from there. So that would be fascinating to me, is to see how it was brought into a different culture and kind of portrayed. So to me that'd be interesting. We haven't had Tom Bombadil, so that's kind of fun to be able to see that dialogue be happening. I think that'd be fun. All right, you guys. Well, let us know down below if you have given this a view. You can watch this on YouTube. If you haven't, definitely check out. It's very entertaining. Kyle is an amazing artist. He's done a lot of the work for the shirts we wear on the show here. So go ahead and check out his Instagram, and also check out the AsArt.space store, where you can get some of the stuff you want as well. We've done a lot of Lord of the Rings content on this channel, from deepfakes to the animated reviews to everything else. Go ahead and check those things out. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.